And I help with the lecture series in the School of Landscape Architecture and Planning. And today we would like to welcome Fletcher McCusker, who's going to be speaking about Rio Nuevo as a catalyst for the renewal of Tucson's urban core. I'd like to go through a few structural issues for the, my slide won't advance, hold on. For today's lecture, we have people in person in the classroom, and we also have people joining on Zoom. So the lecture is from 12 to 12:45. We need to be wrapped up and out of the classroom at 12:45 because we do have another class coming in at 1. If you'd like to get some food in the back of the room, do so now. As 12:45, we're going to pack up the food and get it out of there. And we're going to try to wrap up the lecture about 12:30. So there's 10 to 15 minutes of time for questions and answers. If you're participating on Zoom, please type your questions in the chat box, and Jim will, or someone will read that, those questions, so Fletcher can address those. Please keep your audio muted on Zoom during the lecture. So now I'll turn it over to Jim, who is going to introduce Fletcher, and then I'll stop sharing my screen and Fletcher will share his. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. So Fletcher is CEO and founder of UAVenture Capital here in Tucson. After launching Providence Service Corporation, which was the country's first home-based behavioral health provider, and turning it into $1 billion business, Fletcher became interested in revitalizing the then stagnant downtown. And I can assure you it was stagnant because I was here during that period. Providence acquired a city block downtown and renovated and relocated the company to the blighted district area. And he and his 3 partners launched Second Sundays in 2010. And Fletcher was then appointed to the board of the downtown revitalization organization called Rio Nuevo. As chairman of Rio Nuevo, Fletcher launched over 20 projects which brought new hotels, restaurants, clubs, concert venues, housing, and corporate headquarters to downtown. And that is an ongoing process, and the list continues to grow. We are now ranked, thanks to him and his team's effort, ranked number 7 in the country in music. After retiring from Providence, Fletcher and his partners created Sinfonia, an offshoot of a new partnership with the U of A to spur commercialization of faculty inventions. Sinfonia and the company that later purchased it, Tabula? Tabula. I stand corrected again.
You didn't take Latin.
I did not take Latin, and nor do I plan on taking it. Both located in downtown Tucson. Most recently, U of A President Robbins asked Fletcher and his partners to establish UAVenture Capital to commercialize U of A technology. And Fletcher is a proud U of A graduate. He has been the alumnus of the year and does hold an honorary doctorate from the U of A. Please welcome Fletcher, and I'm going to try to get up his PowerPoint right now. Ooh.
Right at the top. Slideshow. Click on slideshow from the beginning. You're now a PowerPoint expert. There we go. I must be taller than Jim. Hello, everyone. I'm living proof that you can graduate from the U of A with a 2.75 GPA and be somebody. Now, I did go to ASU for graduate school, and I was a 4.0 student there, but this was the 60s, and it was drugs, sex, and rock and roll. So a different time. But I am native. My grandfather moved to Tucson in 1929. I went to AMPI, I went to the U of A, 3rd generation Tucson. My grandfather moved here. It was a town of 35,000 people. Today we're well over a million. So today we're talking about a TIF, a tax increment financing district. Does anybody in the room not know what a TIF is? Okay, let's start there. Whether you're in architecture or real estate, a TIF will be very important to you in your future location. In Arizona, Rio Nuevo, which means New River in Spanish, is the only TIF in the state. Tax Increment Financing District is a government entity created to use government funds to expand in blighted areas. Florida has 200 TIFs. Arizona, we have one, Rio Nuevo, and we're just a little over 20 years old. We've just been extended to 2035. We're a sales tax TIF. By that, I mean we get a percentage of the sales tax created within the Rio Nuevo district. Our obligation to the state is to reinvest those dollars into projects, both new, and we've been blessed to be able to do a lot of historical preservation. This is what's happened to Rio Nuevo over the last 20 years. The first 10 years, if you were around in 2000 to 2010, this was a government-run entity, and they literally wasted $250 million. $230 million was spent between 2000 and 2010, and nothing was built. The state eventually seized the district. The FBI invested everybody for being corrupt, and the state took over in 2010. I was appointed to the district in 2012. I now report directly to the president and the Senate. Our board now is run by the governor, the president, and the speaker of the House. But you can see quickly the revenue that we've produced using these incremental dollars since we got involved in 2012. You can also see the leverage that we create. Our TIF is the San Diego model of TIF. The original TIF here, and a lot of TIFs are government run, government operated. They build museums, they build aquariums, they build science centers. Our objective is to provide seed dollars and to partner with private developers. So if you've been downtown in the last 5 years, everything you see downtown that was Rio Nuevo generated is in partnership with a private sector developer. We learned that model, stole it from San Diego. But you can see that we've generated over $1 billion of private investment in our downtown. This is our revenue over the last 10, 12 years. You can see the base when we started and how we've grown it. The 21 number is interesting. That was COVID. So remember, we're a sales tax TIF. So we get a percentage of retail sales tax. When everything was shut down, obviously the sales tax stopped. So our revenue dropped to zero for a period of time during 21. If you've been downtown post-COVID, it is a boomtown. Every restaurant, every new hotel, every apartment building, projects on the drawing board. Tucson's on the map, literally on a lot of maps. Some of the recognition we've received over the years, Tucson's grown. If you were downtown 10 years ago, most of it was boarded up. When I moved my company to downtown in 2010, everything around us was boarded up. Most of that improvement has been through private sector investment, seeded by the Rio Nuevo tax district. But we've been recognized around the world now for the progress that we've created, especially in food and music. We now compete with Austin and Nashville and Memphis, towns like that at the music scene. And of course, you probably know something about the city of gastronomy, where Tucson was identified as a leading foodie destination, literally in the entire world. We've launched 85 restaurants in Tucson in the last. I'm going to run through some of those. This gives you a little idea of our geography. A TIF is established by geographic boundary. It has to go into areas that are considered blighted. So obviously downtown is blighted. The west side is blighted. Broadway was blighted as they were considering widening it. So we're confined to a geographic base. Our sales tax comes from anywhere within that base, which includes the two malls. So we get the benefit of the sales tax from both Elcon and Park Place Mall. Some projects in chronological order. Our arena, which was built in the 60s, was virtually obsolete when we took over. We spent $10 million, $11 million to renovate the arena, to bring in new ice, to improve the venue. And of course, that attracted the Roadrunners. So once we had new ice, we had a hockey team. Once we redid all the seats, you can see the new seats. we started to attract concerts. Last year, this venue attracted over 500,000 patrons. AC Marriott, any of you familiar with Tucson, been around for a while, know that we haven't had a hotel downtown since the 70s. And that hotel was in fact boarded up. So we were really anxious and eager to launch a new hotel. And we were totally flabbergasted when the AC Marriott picked us. You know anything about the AC? It's a European brand, started in Barcelona. Antonio Castellanos. It was a boutique hotel. Marriott bought it and wanted to launch it in 5 US cities: Miami, Nashville, New Orleans, San Diego, Tucson, and Arizona. We had no idea why they picked this city. It was nearly 10 years ago. They saw something before anybody else saw in this market, was the ability to attract millennial travelers. The AC Marriott is a hotel designed to attract an urban traveler that would probably Uber in and out of their hotel. The Greyhound Terminal, very small Greyhound here. We only have 10 buses a day now that run out of the Greyhound. We built that terminal for them in 2017. It's right on Euclid and Broadway. You've probably seen it. The MSA Annex, an early project for us that people thought we were insane. This is a vacant property across the street from Caterpillar. And the owner of this land approached us with installing a container village. So this is 55 shipping containers that were pre-rusted, that are augered into the ground. Nothing is installed permanently over there. And it's now a go-to destination, produces $1 million a year of sales tax. And anybody that's been there goes back. It's just a remarkable thing. It's designed to be temporary. At some point in the future, you might see that land develop. And of course, we're famous for attracting Caterpillar to Tucson. Tucson is not the kind of city that wins these corporate relocation contests. They go to Denver, they go to Palo Alto, they go to Austin. They don't come to Tucson. Because this was in our district, we were very aggressive on making this irresistible Caterpillar. We bought the land, we built their building, we advanced their money to pay for staff relocation. 1,100 Illinois-based people eventually transferred to this Caterpillar location in Tucson. $2 billion economic impact. City Park, you've probably all been there. That's now the headquarters for Hexagon. The basement, their ground floor is the Monica, the newest, one of the most popular restaurants downtown. It was a vacant lot when we took over. It had been a drugstore that had been torn down, and nobody really knew what we were going to do with it. We designed it as office without really knowing what was going to happen. Anytime we design office or residential, we like to keep the ground floor as retail. So if you look at downtown, even though there's height and vertical height, everything at ground level is retail, food, beverage, and soon to be shopping retail. The Marist College, we've given the opportunity to build new. You've seen some of that. We also really have an interesting opportunity to restore our historical assets. So we're not required to do this. No one makes us do this. We do it voluntarily. But the Marist was one of the oldest adobe buildings in Tucson. It was about to fall down. We restored it. We cobblestoned the street. This is now a gateway property downtown by the Tucson Convention Center. And you can see the economics. Our website is rionuevo.org. If you go to that, you can see every project we've ever done, every check we've ever written. You can kind of follow our agenda in terms of things that are coming to us in the future. DoubleTree Hotel, once the Marriott came to town, so did the DoubleTree. And we're going to see a Hyatt, we're going to see a Hilton, we're going to see a Drury Inn, we're going to see the Camino Real. They all follow each other downtown. You look at Uber's top 10 destinations, number 1 is the airport. The next 9, all downtown Tucson. Congress Street block, these are turn of the century buildings that most people probably suggested should have been torn down. We've chosen to save them. So new restaurants are popping up in these. Batch, if you've been to Batch, whiskey bar now, whiskey and donuts, which interesting combination, but they now have a basement bar, Pinkas on the street. Tabu is opening on the street. All of these will eventually probably be food and beverage. Our Congress Street is beginning to rival Congress in Austin, 6th Avenue in Austin as a food and music destination. Bata, if you haven't been to Bata, take your friends and family to Bata. It's an old warehouse on the corner of Tool and 7th. That was just ranked one of the top 50 restaurants in the United States. Everything in it is fired by mesquite. Every drink, every salad, every dessert, every entree has mesquite smoke. And if we had Michelin stars, this would be a Michelin star restaurant. The Manier, again, just an apartment complex on the far west side of vacant land. We don't just build apartments. We like to see apartments and retail. So the bottom floor of the Manier is all retail. There are 170 units now totally leased up. Anytime somebody is building an apartment complex in downtown Tucson, they lease up now very quickly. And if you're trying to lease any of those, you'll find that they're incredibly expensive compared to other areas around Tucson. We talked about the hotels. So, you know, the Marriott comes to town, DoubleTree comes to town, Hilton bought an empty parking lot and built a double branded hotel right across the street from the cathedral. It has a long-term home to stay, and a Hampton Inn. Again, these are just, you can see the date, 2021. All this is new within the last 5 years. Tucson Convention Center, the original Rio Nuevo was going to tear it down and build a new one. We decided instead to renovate the one that we had. So we just finished a $70 million renovation. If you've been down there recently, we've renovated the exhibition halls, the music hall, the plaza. We've added 20,000 square feet of new meeting rooms. It's really now a top 5 convention center destination. The other thing that we've chosen to do is invest about $10 million into technology. So we now will have 5 and 6G capacity anywhere on campus, and also a high-speed internet. The idea is that we think this venue will become a gaming convention destination, where half of the people are here in person, thousands of people, 10,000s of people are online in a gaming competition. A new hotel downtown. This is a former office building. We struggled with office use downtown, especially in these older buildings. So this was purchased by a group out of Phoenix called Op West. They've developed all the Montage properties in California. So this is supposed to open April 15th, and it's a 5-star hotel in downtown Tucson. The bottom floor will be restaurant, bar, and open air plaza. And the next 10 floors will be 5-star luxury hotel. The Sunshine Mile, one of the funnest things we've been involved with. It was named the Sunshine Mile in the 50s. When Tucson began to expand, they created a lot of these drivable strip malls. Most of that activity was from the 50s. It was all going to be torn down for the widening of Broadway. We condensed the RTA instead of tearing them down to give us these properties, and we would activate them as what? Food and beverage. So there are 55 properties on Broadway now. You're just beginning to see the beginnings of that, where we're again partnering with private developers to launch some 55 new properties from Country Club to the beginning of downtown Tucson. These are the blocks that are on the Sunshine Mile. They're all circa 1960. Really interesting architecture. If you're an architectural student, some of our most renowned architects were involved in that block, during the late 50s, early 60s. It's now a registered historical district, and our money is being used to revitalize. You'll see some very well-known names going into those spaces, including Grant Kruger, who owns Reforma, Proof. They're moving to this block. Larson Baker has a number of restaurant clients. So that's all, again, going to pop up with food and beverage. Why? We think it makes it a destination. It kind of, you get around the parking problems that are inherent in urban environments. and it creates sales tax. You know, we get to keep the sales tax above the base. Z-Moms, a really interesting family, corner of Treat and Broadway. They're Ethiopian. They opened up that restaurant probably 40 years ago. The widening was going to demolish their restaurant. We convinced the city to leave it alone. We've also purchased the adjacent properties that will become an African bazaar, indoor and outdoor Ethiopian food and international sports, probably mostly soccer, or what they call football. Julian Drew, down the street downtown, we used to be Access 12, the television studio. It's again a turn of the century building filled with asbestos. This will be a new brewery and bar restaurant called the Sonora Moonshine, run by the people that own Borderlands. The Batista, we just broke ground on this across the river. If you go to the Mercado Village and turn right, you see vacant property there. It's a 270 unit apartment complex with 25,000 square feet of ground floor retail. Take about 18 months to finish this project. We helped during COVID. Nobody told us to. Long before there was the PPP loans, we granted about $2 million in literally survival grants for many of our restaurants downtown. And they will tell you it probably kept them open during the COVID period where they had to be closed. Tucson is a jazz town. I didn't know this. You didn't know this. Nobody knew this until we built the jazz club. If you haven't been to the Century Room and the Hotel Congress, it is a spectacular jazz facility built by the people that run the Vanguard in New York City. A small, intimate club, now worldwide known for jazz, both the acoustics and the artists that want to play there. The Hotel Congress, remember, is a 100-year-old hotel. This was a vacant ballroom, and now it's a thriving Thursday, Friday, Saturday night for sure, but every night open now is a jazz club. We see a lot of interest in jazz in downtown Tucson now. The Jazz Festival, which runs January through Martin Luther King Day, attracted 65,000 people to Tucson. Most of them were from out of town. We're now up there with New Orleans and Chicago and Telluride for producing the Jazz Festival. Riley Craft Pizza, if you haven't been to Riley downtown, it's in an old funeral home. People are a little nervous about that because they're making pizzas, but they did change out the ovens. They built a rooftop bar. We've helped them with that. They've also built a speakeasy that you go down below Riley. Again, food and beverage. If you're a restaurateur, you have an idea for a restaurant, we will help you build it. Some really neat young Latin people took over 3 properties downtown. We were all sad to see Cafe Poker close. It was probably our premier restaurant. It was immediately occupied by La Chingada, which is a swear word, I'm sorry, in Spanish, but they assume us Caucasian people don't know that, but it's kind of a running joke. They also bought properties around them, have invested in an oyster bar, and the neighborhood, which is the former H2O Lounge, which is now a sit-down restaurant. Gibson Event Center will soon be a new restaurant. That was the old distillery right behind the entertainment center. And we'll also keep a rentable entertainment venue on the street frontage. You can see we've been busy. El Presidio District is the area around El Charro. There's vacant land there. There's also a lot of historical properties. We're working to try and activate that entire space, but make it walkable. We don't want that to be Congress. We want it to be more neighborhoodish, friendly, walkable. So we're investing in some really fun things. You've been over there lately. You've seen that we closed Washington, closed the whole street down. It's now an outdoor cafe. Tabu, new restaurant downtown, going into a vacant warehouse. This is going to be a beautiful bar. They should open here in a month. Traditional Sonoran restaurant and bar with live music. Kava Den, you probably know what kava is. I did not. But they've opened up a Tabu Bar in downtown Tucson. We've helped them do that. We're really trying to diversify and attract all ages. They've just been open for a few months, but I understand they're very successful with the downtown Tabu Bar. Batch Whiskey, we talked about these guys. They bought a little storefront. They seriously serve donuts and whiskey. They bought the adjacent property around them. They've expanded upstairs and downstairs, all with our financial assistance. When I was there the week they opened, I gave them a one-word suggestion: milk. The Corbett, immediately across the tracks, is a former warehouse called the Corbett. It's on its way to being Tucson's first urban pickleball facility. Building 5 pickleball courts there, 2 of them indoors, 3 of them outdoors, along with a huge hamburger restaurant and an outdoor beer garden. You can see it when you drive. It's right across the street from the coffee shop. Playground, it opened up 10 years ago, but they went dark during COVID. We helped them remodel. They remodeled and improved the rooftop bar. If you haven't been to the new playground. Box Yard, our container village was so successful on the west side. There's a corner on 5th and Broadway that we're going to stand up another container village in the very heart of downtown Tucson. We talked about the Sonora Moonshine Company, a huge brewery, bar, restaurant, also with a downstairs speakeasy going into another empty building downtown. The Fox Tucson Theater, if you know anything about Tucson, you know the Fox has been what they call the crown jewel of our entertainment scene. It was 100 years old. It's an beautiful Art Deco theater, kind of stuck in the block. We renovated the theater. It's a great place to see a concert. It's acoustically perfect. It's entirely by accident because it was built before there was sound. It just turned out to be built from a lava rock that was quarried out of Bisbee. It's permeable. So if you're ever in the Fox, you knock on the wall, there's no reverb. They've been so popular, they want to expand. So they have purchased every adjacent property around the Fox, and it will soon become our Carnegie Hall. This will all be the new lobby, restaurant, rooftop bar, all on stone. The theater will become adjacent to that. You will enter now from stone. This is about a $22 million renovation of the Fox. I'm going to stop there. It's 12:30 and take questions. If you're online, you can send me a chat. And you can take questions here in the room. There's some questions in chat. Raise your hand if you're local. Go ahead, sir.
I work on the Master Architecture Housing Studio. We were just looking at exploring through some of those signature housing development there, also with architect, developer. What would you suggest we look at this?
Specific to us, it's geographic. It's downtown, the far west side, anything along Broadway front. We have money and the capability to help private developers anywhere in that geography. We're, again, the only TIF in the state. So if you look at our website, you'll see a variety of incentives available to developers in that corridor. The GPLET is the most popular, GPLET. That stands for Government Property Lease Excise Tax, where we, the government, can buy a property, lease it to you for a nominal amount, typically $100. As long as we own it, it's also exempt from property tax. So there's a huge financial incentive to be involved in that. We have made equity investments into deals. We have loaned construction funds to deals. We will do tax rebates. We're very aggressive inside that geography. Outside that geography, it's demographic driven. And you will hear Tucson talk about the 20-minute walk. Tucson is developing into neighborhood sections where everything is designed to be bikeable or walkable. You see it in Marana, Oro Valley areas. You see it in the South. You'll see that in other areas where they're developing kind of neighborhood centers. Ours is the only one that's urban. The chat comments were mostly about the volume, so I don't know if that got better. The question was about historical, using our money for historical renovation. I'll come to that. You had a question?
As a retail tip, do the projects you invest in require retail element?
So the question is, as a retail tip, do we have to invest in retail? We don't, but we do have to show an ROI. So we can do a mixed use building. The Monier is a good example of that, where the majority of it's housing, but it has enough retail to create an ROI. So under the law, the taxpayer has to have more benefit than the developer does. That's simple. So if we give you $2 million, the taxpayers have to benefit by $2,001,000. And we actually have to use a third-party evaluator to help us determine the equity of those kind of deals. So there's almost always some retail involved because it's going to produce the greatest return on investment benefit. As it relates to historical preservation, we're not mandated to do it. We do it because we think it's important. But again, a component of that is going to be retail. So we're not just preserving historical properties for the sake of restoring historical properties. We're converting them. We're activating them. We're combining them, aggregating them with other properties. Like on the Sunshine Mile, there's a 16 storefront block there. Some of that's not going to be retail, but there's enough retail in there to create a huge tax return on that entire block. We love historical preservation. It's my bias. You know, my family moved here. You know, a lot of those buildings I went to as a kid. We're doing our best to save them. I will tell you, there's not a lot of energy in this community to save, 900 square foot bungalows from demolition. So the way we did that is to give them away. So we'll acquire the building. If you want to develop it, we'll sell it to you for $1. But we want to know what you're going to do. We have to approve the use. And that's between the combination of our funds and like-minded preservation people, we've been able to restore a number of historical properties. Go ahead.
Follow up, does the ROI calculation include increase in real estate tax base, or is it only the retail, is it only sales tax?
Great question. So the question is, what kinds of taxes do we consider when we do an economic analysis? Yeah, we do look at all sorts of taxes. Obviously, a vacant piece of land converted to a mid-rise is going to improve the property tax value. So that is evaluated in terms of the taxpayer benefit. The greatest benefit still comes from retail sales. But we get to combine those things when we look particularly at it. Remember the word incremental. This is all incremental. So if it's a vacant piece of property, anything we do there is going to be incremental. So property tax measures into that significantly on a vacant piece of land. Question about retail development. Are there provisions for supporting affordable housing? It's a great question. It's very timely. This city, this state has a huge issue around affordable housing. We cannot build a single affordable unit. It's outside of our mandate unless it has retail. So what we've tried to encourage is mixed use and integrated housing, not public housing, not standalone affordable housing, but a complex that has all three: ground level retail and maybe multimodal, some level of market rate housing, and some level of affordable housing. Most developers will tell you thanks, but no thanks, because the affordable rents don't pencil. When you can get $2.50 a square foot in Tucson to rent an apartment, they're not going to rent it to you for $1 a square foot unless they're subsidized. We can do that. We will do that. We've not done it yet. We tried to create some projects along Broadway where we could do an integrated complex that would include retail on the bottom, multimodal transportation, market rate, residential, and what we would call workforce housing, live, work, affordable. From the chat room, Sunshine Mile, it's public transportation to connect these developments without using your car. Unfortunately, no. We're not in the transportation business. We are advocating for high-speed rapid bus along Broadway. We also suggested an open-air trolley. If you've been to Palm Springs or Laguna Beach, they run rubber wheel trolleys that are romantic and free to the public. People that won't ride on a bus will ride on an open-air trolley. Other than that, we're trying to require and encourage multimodal transportation, Uber, scooter, bike within your complex. You get development points if you do that under the way the chief works. Question from Helen is to talk about the Sosa Carrillo House. The Sosa Carrillo House, if you're not familiar, please walk by it when you're at the Tucson Convention Center. Pretty soon it will be really a dramatic improvement, but right now it does house the Mexican American Museum. So if you're not familiar with that section of Tucson, it was one of our original barrios. The barrio to the south of that was built in the late 1870s, 1880s, these precious adobe properties that ran all the way through downtown. In the 60s, are you surprised, Caucasian government declared all that area blighted and tore down in the name of urban renewal. That's what built the convention center. There's one property there right at the edge of the district adjacent to the music hall that was built in 1875. A traditional mud adobe property that the city at the time believed had been occupied by the Caucasian governor, Fremont. So they saved it. They tore down 236 properties that were owned by Latin, Black, Chinese Americans, but they saved the one that was owned by the Caucasian governor. Turns out he never did own it. He never did reside in it. It just somehow got spared. It became registered as a historical landmark. It's been neglected for years. Rio Nuevo just recently voluntarily acquired the building, not to commercialize that property, to renovate it and to allow it to remain the Mexican American Museum. It's a huge badge of honor for us. And I think it's just totally coincidental that, I got to be the guy that saved that property. The white guy. Yeah, the white guy that got to save that property. And there's now, I think, an awareness of the damage that we did in the mid-century toward our indigenous families. Well, I've mentioned the electronics that we're developing there. We're also working with a company out of LA called Ripples, RYPPLZ. That's an AI company that will attach to our smartphone app artificial intelligence that will allow you to sweep your phone and to see what the barrio would have looked like in 1880. Obviously, we can't rebuild anything. We wouldn't, but you'll be able to see what that barrio looked like. That app will recognize you the minute you step on our campus. Remember, I said 520,000 people visited it. So now 500,000 people a year are going to get a good dose of this history. And we think it's about time. Right. Thank you, Helen. She said she was coming out at the rain kept her. TIF enabling legislations around the company are provided. Is the state legislature considering that? No. No, exclamation point, no. The governor is, but you've seen what's going on between the House and the Senate. We've never been at greater odds. There's never been more disagreement and pettiness between our partisan parties. And if the governor wants something, the House and the Senate will make sure she doesn't get. So we're at a stalemate as it relates to some of the ideology and opportunities around affordable housing and equity because the Republican-dominated legislature is not interested in supporting those kind of things. The question in the room.
I was curious about the Marist College. Is there a retail component to that? And is the senior living affordable or?
The questions about the Marist College, it is subsidized senior living, so it is designed to be affordable. The college itself was converted to the community center. So it's now the complex-wide community center for
Still
the,
owned by the diocese?
so no, it was all sold. The diocese sold it to a developer who developed that and the adjacent property, senior living property. There is a component of retail that the diocese intends to open a small cafe on the ground floor of the Cathedral Square. 12:41, we got a 4-minute hard stop, right? Go ahead.
Your last audit, you praised for how great you guys have been, but the one thing they mentioned was that you needed to have more of a centralized focus or vision.
Master plan.
Master vision.
So the question is,
Have you addressed
our
that?
audit, it's on our website. We're audited because of the past abuses. We're audited every 3 years now by the Auditor General. And since I've been involved, they've all been indeed very complimentary. We're now identified as one of the best examples of a TIF in the country. The recommendation for us was, you can see from our projects, we're reactive. You know, somebody comes to us with an idea, we help you build it. During COVID, especially, we weren't sure we were going to survive. So we just kind of hung on and wait for the market to change. And then we've been inundated with people with ideas. The recommendation is to do a master plan. I think the city's done 92 of them. So master planning in and of itself doesn't get a building built. Our response to that audit was, we do believe there's some merit in that. And now that we've been extended until 2035, and it looks like we're economically sound, there's probably some value to us trying to figure out what we might promote over the next 12 years. Some of that, to Helen's earlier point, may require legislative change. And it probably won't happen as long as there's a split government. One more question.
You mentioned something about the G-Plat tax abatement. Does that cover privately owned property within the zone? Or
So the questions about a G-Plat, if you're a real estate student, I would encourage you to really study the G-Plat. It's used widely around the country. Again, Rio Nuevo can use it, cities can use it. It becomes government owned. The first G in that is government. So the government can own a property outright and lease it to you. It's still a G-Plat. You can build a property, complete it, get a certificate of occupancy. We buy it from you and lease it back to you. That's also another form of a G-Plat. The latter is the most common, where a developer takes a vacant piece of property, builds something on it, completes the construction, sells it to us or another jurisdiction for $100, has a 25-year lease for $100 with an option to buy it back anytime during that lease. It's a very effective tool to reduce your property tax liability.
will the government free market rate to acquire the property?
If we're acquiring it, we have to pay the appraised tax.
It will pay a freeze value.
But we can turn it right around and gift it to a private developer.
But
We've done that.
on a developer property, you guys pay a nominal rate, right? You don't pay. when
Yeah,
you're
if you come to
leasing back a
me, if you
G-Plat.
come to me with a completed property, you spent $20 million on it, I'll buy it from you for $100, $100. And we'll establish a lease, 25 years is the maximum under the law, for $100.
And you buy it
But
back
it's,
for
you
$100?
can buy it back at any time for that $100. But while it's government owned, it's removed from the property tax rolls. It's controversial. It was abused in Phoenix. Legislation was changed a couple of years ago to tighten up on all this now. So we're operating under the current law, and the current law kind of really stopped the abuse. Under the CAPLA now, we have to show the economic upside. We have to show that the taxpayers benefit. Peoria and other cities, they're building bowling alleys and, all kinds of things that, shouldn't be subject to the CAPLA. So thank you. We got a class coming, and my email, I think you have, I'm an email junkie. If you didn't get a question answered, send it to me and I will respond.
Would you help me not only thank Fletcher for his wonderful presentation, but just as much a thank you for the tremendous positive impact he's had on Tucson? Honey, you can help us by taking 110% of your trash with you. There's still some goodies left here. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.